always read a scripture given to me by my great aunt, and it was 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11. When I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. I tell you, this spoke to me at your age, and I hope it speaks to you. It's time for you to take full responsibility for you. I don't care what you have done in your past, what type of past you come from, your future is up to you. You have to ask yourself who you want to be. Some of you know, some of you are still trying to figure it out. That's okay, you have time. Not a lot of time, but you still have time. I tell you that only you can change your situation. If your parents didn't go to college, doesn't mean you can't. If your brothers and sisters didn't go to college, does not mean that you can't. And to dig a little deeper, if your brothers and sisters and your parents were involved with drugs or something unfavorable, doesn't mean you have to. It's up to you to change your situation. And if you always do the same thing, you will always get the same results. It's up to you to want better for yourself. If you understand that only you can change your situation, you realize that there will be obstacles, but you must keep on pushing. You must keep your sights on your goals and achieve them regardless of what comes your way or get in your way. And I'm going to tell you a few stories about my life. I call them lessons. Some may call them failures. The first one I'm going to tell is what I call ineligible. It all started when I was 16 years old. And I was highly recruited going into my high school, to my senior year, I played football. That summer I attended football camp at the University of Arkansas. I was there and I was doing well. And on the last day, Houston Nuts, the head football coach at that time, called me out of practice and invited me into his office. He asked me if I wanted to be a Razorback, and I yelled to the top of my lungs, yes. I left out of that office. I was bragging to the players that went to the camp with me. Later that night, the phone rang in my dorm room, and I answered and got the worst news that I could ask for at that time. It was the athletic director from my high school. And he called to tell me that I was ineligible and I couldn't play my senior year. My world crumbled. I couldn't believe it. Just imagine, that was all I knew at the time. I mean, it was football. I'm playing football. What you want to do, NFL? Just, you know how 16-year-olds talk. That's what I wanted to do. I mean, I was searching for answers. Only I had the answers too. It was my fault. Not long after that, I was blessed with a life. Here I am in high school preparing to be a father when I only thought I would be preparing for college. Real responsibility set in and I was no longer just living for me. My son was another reason why I had to figure it out and keep on pushing to succeed. My son is now 13 years old, standing just as tall as I am, and I am happy to have him. Now let me reflect on all of that. At that point, I promised myself that I would never allow myself to fail again. That was embarrassing to my family, to my school, and to myself. All of this happened because I wasn't taking school seriously, because I was irresponsible, and because I thought I was untouchable. I was humbled long before that point, but it was at that point that I realized that I would always put business before pleasure. I also learned that if you bring a life into this world, it's your responsibility to take care of it. That child did not ask to be here, so that child does not deserve to be abandoned. And that's the bottom line. My life went on, and please believe that as things happen in your life, life will continue, and you must continue with it. You must not stop. You must stay focused on your goals. Anyway, I started college, and things were starting to look up for me. So I thought. In my freshman year, tragedy strikes, which leads to my next story, and I call it Overcoming Tragedy. I was midway through my second semester in college, and I was hit with the unimaginable. I was living with my parents, and my mom decided to move from a home we owned in a bad neighborhood to Bel-Air Drive Projects, which was a lot worse than where we lived and where I grew up. She left the house to my brother. He sold drugs, used drugs, he robbed, and I wasn't selling drugs anymore or doing any of those things, so I decided to go move in with my mom. In the process of us moving, my mom needed opened the door and I noticed that the door was locked, which was strange because we've been in this neighborhood for over 20 years. We never locked the door. We had the open door policy to everybody. After he opened the door, he had on a bulletproof vest and had a gun in his hand. I asked, what's going on? He replied, nothing. So I brushed it off and grabbed the items that my mom sent me for and I left. After getting home, I noticed I left something and I had to return to the house. This time, when I stepped on the porch, I didn't hear a sound. I went to unlock the door and it opened. When you open the door, there's a living room, and to the left, there's a bedroom. Given what I had just seen, I decided to just check in on my brother. When I looked into that bedroom, I saw a body halfway under the bed. It was frozen stiff. His hands were in a fist and covered in blood. I took a couple steps closer and I realized that he had blood running down his head. As I got closer, I realized this individual had been shot. A little bit closer and I realized it was my brother. I yelled out to him. His last breath was to me. It was like a thud. It was So just imagine what that does, what that would do to you. As I scanned the room over, I noticed on the wall the letters JJ wrote out in his own blood. I noticed the window pane where he had attempted to lift up and call for help. Despite the name JJ on the wall, despite all the wounds, my brother's murder is still one of Pine Bluff's unsolved mysteries. Now let's just think about all of this. I'm 19 years old and I just found my brother dead. I got taken from me what I thought was so important in football. I got the responsibility of a child. It was just so much on my shoulders. All of this resulted in me flunking out of college the first time. I lost my drive because, my brother was a piece of me, and everything that I wanted, everything I stood for was just ripped from me. I learned that things will happen and we must keep pushing. Death is something inevitable and always unexpected. Having faith is important, especially at the end of life. Believing in God brings us comfort and it reminds us that life is everlasting. Remember, we are never guaranteed tomorrow. We should live each day as if it's our last, but always plan for tomorrow. I could have given up and followed down the same road as my brother, but I chose a different path for my son, for my daughter, for my wife, and for my future. I want you all to do the same for your futures. Now hear me when I say this. Motivation is a fire from within. If someone else tries to light that fire, chances are it will burn very briefly. You have to find within yourselves the will to succeed, achieve, and overcome. The key to success is to keep growing in all areas of life. That's mental, emotional, spiritual, as well as physical. Winston Churchill says, success is the ability to go from one failure to another with no loss of enthusiasm. The last story I'm going to tell is what I call, had that you had enough. I was out and about with friends after Pine Bluff High School football game. We may have been playing hall, I don't know, but after a football game. A friend of mine decided he wanted to go get a Black and Mild. That's a little cigar. But the strange thing about all of it was, he didn't smoke, never have. But he wanted it this day. Anyway, we decided to stop at the store and allow him to get one. As we pulled into the store, we noticed some guys that we knew. As we got closer, we noticed a guy in the car, we noticed that a guy in that car had stole something from him in the past. Needless to say, there was some animosity in our car, but we kept all the hostility to ourselves. When we pulled up, the driver of the car, which I had known for years, asked us to buy him a drink. We replied, no, you have money to buy you a drink. You were here before we were. So he put his car in reverse and backed up right beside us. But when he did that, they caused us to be blocking the street. Cars started to come, and I pulled up to let them by. And the driver of that car snapped. His first statement was, you are not about to break me in line. And I stated, hey, I'm just letting the cars go by. At that point, he started to curse me out. He called me every foul name in the book. So I said my piece, so I said my piece, and he got out of the car and ran around to my car. And I was laughing because I used to love to fight, and he knew that. I was sure he wasn't ready. I was sure. But how many of y'all know he didn't get out of that car empty-handed? As he was running around the car, my little brother in the back seat noticed he had a gun. So he yelled out, he has a gun. I heard him. And at that point, my mind went into survival mode. I've been around guns, most all of my life. I was definitely thinking, not me, not today. If I had not jumped out of the car before he noticed, I would not be here to tell my story. I swung the door open, and before I knew it, I hit him, and I mean his knees buckled. But what I didn't know was he was high on PCP, and he couldn't feel a thing. He never dropped his gun. It was almost like he levitated from the ground. He pulled the trigger. I saw sparks. The back of my shirt jumped. I looked down and saw a red dot on my shirt. I was shocked. I then took 3 steps back. I squatted down and I looked him in his eyes and I said, it's over. He ran away and I hopped in the car and ran to the hospital. For 3 whole blocks I prayed. And for the next 3 blocks I don't remember a thing. My thoughts are that I was in the negotiating room with the Lord. And obviously I stayed here because he gave me another chance.
Stop, sir.
But hear me, it's not worth it. Right. I could have handled that entire situation differently. I should have been there to begin with. I'm standing here with an entrance wound and an exit wound. I'm cut from my chest to below my navel because I was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and I handled the entire situation terribly. It's not worth it. Now let me give you a little bit more background on every story I told you. The guy that shot me is dead. The guy in the car with me that wanted the black and mild is dead. The 2 prime suspects in my brother's case, none of them were ever found guilty of anything. The 2 prime suspects are all dead. I must tell you, at times I feel incomplete. I feel lost, searching for answers, may never find them. After all of that, I flunked out of college again. But guess what? I never gave up.